Today on the Bill Kelly Show on AM 900 CHML.
Interesting debate the other day on the Global Morning Show on Global TV, where Marc Emery, who is in some circles known as the Prince of Pot here in Canada, made a statement that actually smoking pot makes people better drivers. Well, and that was an eyebrow raiser in many circles. Well, former Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair, who of course now works for the Trudeau government and is the point man on the marijuana policy and the bill that's going forward right now, immediately took exception to that and said that a recent Canadian study indicated that smoking pot actually increases the likelihood of being involved in an accident fourfold. That, according to Blair. He says it clearly impairs a person's ability to operate a motor vehicle in a different way other than alcohol, but definitely the science is unequivocal and clear. End of quote. That's Bill Blair responding to Marc Emery. Well, we've had a number of people that have weighed in on this on both sides of the issue on social media over the last little while. A fascinating op-ed piece, though, by David Booth, senior writer with Post Media, Driving.ca. And David joins us on the Bill Kelly Show to talk about the research and the information he's found. David, thank you for the time. It's good to have you with us today.
Good to be here, Bill.
It's kind of fun to watch Bill Blair and Marc Emery going back at each other on this, but you've decided to put some factual information into this. Talk to us about what you found.
Well, first off, I want to qualify because, both Bill and Marc come from opposite ends of the spectrum. I have no dog in the show. I do not smoke marijuana. I may have, how will I say it, lit up a blunt or two in university, but I haven't smoked marijuana for 20 or 30 years. So, this isn't for my own benefit. I did a lot of research into this for an article, and I went in thinking that all the research would show me that that there was impairment. There were factual statistics that would show that accidents increased and people were impaired under the effects of THC and shouldn't drive. Unfortunately, I don't know what studies Mr. Blair is referring to, but I couldn't find a single one that definitively said marijuana and cannabis will cause more accidents and more fatalities on the road. In fact, I found more or less the opposite. First off, there were simulation studies where people actually smoked marijuana. They actually quantified how much THC and how many breaths and how long they had to hold the breath. That's how scientific it was. And then they would drive simulators. And it turns out that in all of these tests like that, they didn't notice any detrimental effect to the driving. And even when they simulated accidents like emergency maneuvers and situations, there was no downside. And unfortunately, for the people that say that there's definitely a problem with driving under the influence of cannabis, there doesn't seem to be a lot of factual information that says otherwise.
This is amazing to an awful lot of people, though, when you look at some of the data, and I encourage people, we'll give the website in a second, Dave, so they can read the piece themselves. But it just seems contradictory to, I guess, maybe the mythology. Yeah,
counterintuitive.
Exactly.
It is.
Come on, you're stoned, man. How can you possibly drive a car, man?
But one of the things that they found is, if there was any impairment and any reduction of capabilities, it was more than compensated by how cautious people get. Unlike marijuana, alcohol, which makes you more aggressive, of course, we all know marijuana generally makes you more subdued. And some of the situations, or some of the studies, and some of the people that are saying this are not, again, potheads. In fact, the American Automobile Association is quoted as saying, "It's simply not possible today to determine whether a driver is impaired based solely on the amount of the drugs," they mean THC, in the body. Okay? That NHTSA, that's the American National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, basically says it is inadvisable to try and predict effects based on blood THC concentrations alone. In fact, one of the interesting things that I also found out is some of the testing methods are very flawed. Blood and saliva, for instance, test for the metabolites of marijuana, not marijuana itself. While marijuana, like alcohol itself, goes up and leaves the body fairly quickly, the metabolites last a long time.